Birth rates are going down. We don't want to have kids. But why are birth rates going down? There are three reasons. 1. Kids are expensive. 2. Women are expected to be in the workforce. 3. The internet makes dating harder and enhances negativity about the future. These points combined make having children more difficult, and we'll continue to see birth rates going down. So let's look at these points in order, starting with the finances. Having kids is expensive. It's around $300,000 for 18 years. That's a lot of money, but over 18 years is manageable if you make a lot of money. Most people don't. This shows that 65% of millennials and 72% of Gen Z are living paycheck to paycheck. And for the Americans who don't live paycheck to paycheck, they have to deal with the rising costs of buying a home. Homes have skyrocketed in costs. While the average income increased by $52,000, the average house is hundreds of thousands more expensive. Higher housing prices makes it less likely that people can afford to buy a home. So if you can't buy a home, how are you going to have a family? A home allows you to have privacy, and you can just stay at your home for as long as you want. You don't have a fear of an eviction, unlike when you're renting, where there's a possibility that you just get evicted. The cost of a kid impacts Americans the most, but birth rates in Nordic countries are also being lowered. Sure, they have increased housing costs, but so does everywhere else. And if the cost of the kid is the only reason, then their birth rate should be higher, but they're similar or lower to Americans. Which brings me to my second point. Women are expected to be in the workforce. Before, women were expected to be stay-at-home moms. Now they're expected to be in the workforce. While this data is only in the US, this is a global trend, or more precisely, an expectation. More rights are good, but that doesn't mean they don't affect the world. Getting a college education to go to work means that the cost of not working is higher, which discourages kids. Because investing years of your life into getting a job makes giving up that job a hard decision. The theme of this point is choices. You don't need to be married and have kids now. This is why marriage rates have been trending downwards. But Tep, why do you use American data? Guys, America is the only country. Come on, it's common sense. Speaking of America, some people have beliefs and values that you should have children. America's political divide shows that these beliefs impact birth rates. I'm not saying one side is better or worse, I'm just trying to explain why America has similar birth rates to the Nordic countries, since the EU have less conservatives. More women being in the workforce explain why Japan and South Korea's birth rates are low. In Japan and South Korea, you are expected to work a lot of overtime hours. In those countries, the culture is more collectivist, meaning they see themselves as part of a group. So working hard is seen as good for the country. They work so hard they have a word for dying by overworking. Japan's is called karoshi, and South Korea is called guarosa. The problem is, 60 plus hours of work doesn't give time to be a parent. Being a parent is like a part-time job, so working 60 plus hours gives the woman no time for a kid. This combined with the world making marriage and kids less of an obligation leads to less children per woman. But there's still a third reason why people are having less kids. The internet. Why does the internet lower birth rates? Well, it makes dating harder to start since you can do so many things that are easier to do with the internet. You could go on a dating app, meet a girl and get coffee, or you could watch a YouTube video like what you're doing right now. YouTube videos are one click and you don't have to worry about the video rejecting you. You could play video games instead. Video games can be offline, but there are many free online video games that you can play. Don't try to exploit you, but a game's a game. They're also really engaging, so you could accidentally play for hours without realizing it. You could watch a movie or TV series with a streaming service. Streaming services have plenty of those. If you can't afford it, then sail the high seas to get the movie and TV series you want for free. Or listen to music. You can use Spotify or just listen to it here on YouTube. All of these activities are something that you can do instantly. And you don't need to rely on someone else to make it happen. You can do these activities yourself. Of course, these activities don't satisfy the desire for love or romance, but don't worry, there are other things that are substitutes for love. I say substitutes because they aren't as good as the real thing. The most popular example is Replica, a companion AI. Well, some of you are thinking, why would anyone use this? Someone watching has used this secretly. You talk to an AI and you treat it like a romantic partner. Even Grok is trying to aim for this market with Annie. This market is like adult content. Some people use it, are ashamed of using it, but will use it secretly. Annie also has an adult content mode, so Grok is aiming for two markets, which have a big overlap, but still. If you want to talk to a specific character like Shrek, you can use Character AI. It's probably 50% accurate to the character. I don't use it, so I don't really know, but the point is that there are a lot of ways to talk to someone that isn't human. It somewhat fills the void of having no one to talk to. If you want to satisfy other desires, then there's adult content. Adult content can help satisfy urges that Replica or other AIs made for romance can't relieve. Let's move on to a different topic before I get banned, and let's say you're trying to find love. Well, good luck considering that people are less likely to want to meet you in person since social media exists. Higher social media consumption makes it more likely for people using social media to have depression or anxiety. So why do people still use social media? They use it to feel like they're around people or for entertainment. It's like being in person, but worse. It's also addicting since the algorithms those platforms use make you stay on that platform as long as possible. Algorithms are instructions to accomplish a task. In this case, the task is keeping the user on the platform. Algorithms will do this task with content you'll want to watch. And unfortunately, content that makes you angry is the most likely content you'll click on. I can show you a study that proves that anger is the most likely content to get users engaged, or I could remind you that rage bait became a meme because of how much content tries to get you mad. The rage bait being a meme is a stronger point since memes spread when they are relatable or funny. In this case, the meme is way too relatable. The content that makes people angry also affects how they see the world, which makes their view of the future more negative. It doesn't help that automation and AI are gradually replacing more jobs. Could AI take half of our jobs in 20 years? I don't know, but the fact that it's a possibility makes bringing a kid to this world less appealing because their life will be harder and you might have to take care of them for a longer time. It doesn't help that a lot of money is being thrown to AI, so it will be developed faster. While this sounds kind of gloomy, I don't think we're doomed. Yeah, it sounds like we're screwed, but there have been worse times in history. We're not in any world wars or Great Depressions. We'll get through this. Plus, the corporations want you to think you have no power so they can keep things the same. And they don't want the people to unite against them. If almost everyone on the political spectrum can unite and agree that the rich need to pay their taxes, and that should be the highest priority we should focus on, then our lives will definitely improve. Let's end this with something more lighthearted. Like, let's see how governments are trying to combat the declining birth rates. It'll be funny to see how most of these solutions suck. Have the government responses to raise fertility rates worked? No, because they focus on covering some of the cause of childcare. They're attacking the symptom, but not the cause, which is low wages, high housing costs, and too many work hours. Hey guys, Tap here, and we're looking at government responses to lowering fertility rates. Let's see why they don't work, starting with America. What has America done to raise fertility rates? Oh. Okay, they've done a few things to encourage having kids. They give $6,000 if you give birth to a kid. And also tax cuts. But the baby being born costs more than $6,000, so it still costs money to have kids. It's better than nothing, I guess. Despite not covering costs for raising a kid, America has a higher birth rate than the EU on average. America is so lucky that its people want to have children. But they made the fertility rates worse in the future with the big beautiful bill, by making people who currently don't have a job not as eligible for SNAP and Medicaid. Cutting support programs for people who don't make a lot doesn't encourage people to have kids, since parents worry about their kids, and removing safety nets makes having a kid a harder decision. It also raises the deficit by a few trillion, which makes the future more difficult. But let's move on from this, and let's look on another continent, Europe. I'll only show a few countries in Europe that have a big population or have interesting policies to encourage children. Why only a few? Because I don't want to look at every European country for similar-ish policies. Policies that subsidize childcare and give parental leave. The childcare subsidy is higher the poorer you are, of course, and etc. Let's have an in-depth look at Germany's childcare policies since they're the biggest European economy and their childcare policies are generous. In Germany, the parents get 255 euros per month for each child until they're 18, or a tax credit. The German tax office will give you the one that is more beneficial, which is nice. It's called a child benefit. You can get even more money if you're poor, called the child allowance, which is up to 297 euros per month for each kid. You have to apply for it. It's not automatic like the child benefit. Germany also has free childcare in some states like Berlin and Hamburg. Of course, this causes supply issues in those states since everyone wants something that's free. You have to look for 1 month or maybe a year before the kid is born. Speaking of pregnancy, there's mandatory maternity leave for 6 weeks before the birth and 8 weeks after the birth. It's for the mother, which is another childcare benefit. There's also parental allowance, which is paid parental leave. The basic version is 12 months and the plus is longer at 24 months, but you get less money. The months are for how much each parent can use. For example, the mother can take 12 months of parental leave, or the mother and father can each take 6 months. The parents can split it, but the parent that makes less should take it while the other works. With these policies covering a lot of childcare expenses, this should make Germany's birth rate higher than America's birth rate. Oh wait, it's lower. It turns out that just covering childcare expenses might not be enough. So let's compare Germany to a country nearby it. France. France's policies are similar to Germany's. The unique thing is that preschool from ages 3 to 6 is guaranteed and free for every kid. But overall, it's just a bit worse. France gives less financial support and parental leave. France should have worse birth rates. Oh wait, it's higher. It's because the French don't work as hard, which gives them more time for a kid. They work 35 hours a week and have lunch breaks ranging from 1 hour to 2 hours. So clearly having to do less work, combined with policies covering childcare costs, lets people have time for children. The birth rates might be lowered because of France's high debt. A 5.8% deficit and 113% debt to GDP. Watch out, America, you've got competition in owing debt. Don't worry, the French will give birth to more children, because France gives you a great reward for raising 4 children. What's the reward? That's right, a medal. Gold stars aren't only for kids, adults can get them too. This is real, you can apply to get this bronze medal. There used to be a silver and gold version before 2013, but judging by the fact that they removed the silver and gold version show that this wasn't worth the effort to France. So the medals didn't help with raising birth rates. But maybe instead of covering childcare expenses to increase birth rates, why not just give money for having 3 to 4 kids? That's what Hungary is doing. Hungary gives loans that are around 25,000 euros that are forgiven after having 3 kids. They're giving grants and loans for couples that want to buy a home if they promise that they'll have kids. The more kids, the higher grants and loans. Although you don't get any more grants or loans after having 4 kids. There's also an income tax exemption for life for mothers with 4 kids, although they're planning to include mothers with 2 kids in 2026. These policies have been happening since 2015, so let's see if they work. They don't really work. The birth rate is kind of stable. Turns out that giving some money to people who already have children doesn't work. It's almost like covering 50 or 80% of expenses of a kid doesn't solve the problem that the kid is a financial burden for at least 18 years. These policies help with raising children, but they don't encourage children to be born. The fertility rate problem is a tricky problem to solve. You can't just throw money at it. But why do governments even care about declining birth rates? It's because less people being born means less taxpayers, which will reduce money for social programs. Social programs that help with retirement. So if you're a millennial or Gen Z, I suggest saving what you make, since retirement might not exist when you're 65. Also, less people means the politicians have less power, since they have less influence over the world with a smaller population. Oh no, not the poor politicians. They have to do their job of pretending to care about the people. The fact is, governments are doing a terrible job in improving people's lives for them to want to have children. Governments haven't been improving people's lives because, like corporations, the people in government only want more power and don't care about the people. They pretend to help you when they would sell you for $5 if you don't pay taxes. They're only worried about corporations if they get too much power. That's why they've been so worried about AI, but they haven't tried to make the internet better for the people. They've tried to make it worse. SOPA for the USA and Article 13 for the EU are great examples of governments trying to cater to the rich instead of the people. Those laws were trying to enforce copyright like the internet is TV, which it isn't. Trying to enforce copyright benefits big companies more, since that means that they can sell merchandise on the IP and prevent others from using it. Governments should... Sorry, I got a bit carried away. Let's look further east to look at countries like Japan and South Korea to see how they try to raise birth rates. South Korea and Japan cities have policies like matchmaking for people so that they get married and hopefully have kids. Some South Korean cities are holding blind date events, while some Japanese cities are doing something similar. Tokyo is giving 4-day work weeks to its government employees. This shows that governments don't really care about you. If the governments cared about you, they would have given 4-day work weeks decades ago. But Tokyo gave 4-day work weeks 4 months ago. While the South Korea policies that aren't matchmaking are giving money for marriages, and the standard gives some support for childcare with money and more parental leave. I want to talk about a South Korean corporation that is giving money to people to have kids, Booyoung Group. Booyoung Group offers 100 million won, which is around 75,000 USD for each kid. In this company of 2,500, 70 babies were born between 2021 and 2023. That company also gave the people who gave birth to those babies the baby bonus too, so that's nice. With this absurd amount of money, surely there will be a baby boom. $75,000 is a lot of money, and getting that for each kid will result in a lot more babies being born, right? Nope. It was only 28 babies born. It's 5 more babies than the average, but if money was the only reason children can't be born, then there would have been a baby boom at that company. The fact that Booyoung Group can even offer that much money shows how much corporations are making while people are making less, which impacts birth rates since less money for the people means not being able to buy a house for the kids to live in. While governments don't care about you and they aren't doing enough to make the average person's financial situation good, we can't ignore that having a child is a long-term commitment that sacrifices some of your independence to focus on the kid. That cost can't be covered by any amount of parental leave or financial support. It's also tricky to combat how the internet has given entertainment that is cheaper and easier to access than dating. Issues like that can't be solved, but we should make the people's lives more financially stable. With policies that give a much higher minimum wage along with more houses with the land available, that might make people want to have kids. Also, if governments want to support parents who are going to raise kids, just give them $300,000 if they give birth to 3 kids, with $100,000 for each additional kid, so 4 kids will get you $400,000. I am serious, this will be more straightforward and helpful than policies that in total pay half or a third of that amount. Governments do need to encourage parents who will have kids to have a lot after all, and $300,000 is a lot of money. That's all for now, folks. Thanks for watching, and kiss the sub button.